Hi there and welcome back to The Marketing Hustle. If you're new here, I'm your host, Lottie, and I'm obsessed with startup marketing. Each episode, I'll have a guest join me to chat about the strategies, hustle, and hard work that built their business. Today, I chatted to Mark Rushmore, who is founder of SURI, the last toothbrush you'll ever need. SURI's growth in just 2 years has been pretty extraordinary. They've beaten target every single month to become almost a household brand name so quickly. We talked about how hustle and ability to execute are the most needed skills in a startup marketer, and why business basics actually make all the difference. How big is your category and how real is that consumer pain point? Before we dive in, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so that you never miss out on an episode of The Marketing Hustle. And if you enjoy what we hear today, we'd really appreciate it if you could give us a rating or review or send this link to a friend. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks so much for having me.
I'm really excited about this.
Yeah, me too.
So we've realised that we've actually got quite a small world.
Yeah.
So we're ex-colleagues but didn't know it.
Yeah. So what year were you there again, or what year?
So we were both at Procter & Gamble.
Yeah.
I don't know. Graduated in 2010.
Okay.
So and then went straight and was there for 4 years.
Yeah.
Did we
What,
overlap?
2010 to 2014?
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. So I was there from 2008 till 2012.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
do you remember the countdown to the
corner.
Olympics?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that in the atrium.
Okay. I feel like my P&G network isn't great because I was like very much holed up in the top left hand. Like the Prestige office was so like.
I was sat
up in one
opposite the
corner.
Prestige offices.
Oh well, then I was just
Yeah.
antisocial.
No. So we had Prestige, and then there was Pringles right opposite. So I think I remember you must. Let's not do
Who
this on the
knows?
podcast.
Yeah,
But
exactly. Yeah, this is great content. Let's talk niche references like office location.
Yeah.
People love that. So from P&G to SURI, what was the SURI story? And I'm sure there's a 20-minute version of this. So let's do the kind of 90 seconds.
90 second.
Yeah.
So I was working on Pringles when it was acquired by Kellogg's. So I went to work at Kellogg's, and then we got this very generous payout, essentially. And so at the age of 26, I went from no money to having some money. And so I went on some travels and adventures, but ultimately wanted to set up a business. I set up the UK office of a German advertising agency that I'd worked with previously at P&G. And then I helped to scale that and sell it. And then during that time, I was invited to the Cannes Lions as a guest of Unilever. And I met the CMO who invited me to a party off the coast of Cannes. And it was at that event that I met my now co-founder, Guy, who had also worked at P&G, unbeknown to me, but in the Geneva office, managing Gillette across EMEA. And so we kind of struck up a conversation about that. But at the time, he was working as a right-hand man for Sir Martin Sorrell at WPP. And I wanted to sell my company to WPP. And so I thought, we just got chatting, and it was actually literally at that very first time we met that Guy said, I want to set up a company to address some of the unsustainable natures of what we do at P&G. And, I think oral care is like a category that people overlook.
Wow.
Fast forward a few years, so
And this wasn't your vision. He was saying.
Totally.
Great. So he said, I've got this idea.
He's got this idea, and so we kept in touch. We became friends. He went to work in some e-commerce companies on behalf of a venture capital fund, and I sold the business and was looking for what to do next. And Guy said, hey, actually we walked literally just down Broadway Market, and as we were crossing a bridge, he was like, look, Mark, I'd love you to come on this journey with me. Like, what do you think?
And you thought, this is big, I get it, I'm in? Or you thought, all right.
Well, what I thought was, I was like, why would I join? He was like, Mark, every year over 4 billion brushes get thrown away and end up in landfill and oceans, and virtually every brush you've ever used probably still exists. And I was like, okay, that's a really big problem. And he was like, but what's more is that, you have two companies who have got an 80% market share. And I was like, well, does that mean people love the products? And he was like, well, actually, we should do some research. And we found, we spoke to hundreds, maybe even thousands of people to ask them about, what they like or dislike. And we found out lots of people aren't using the Bluetooth apps. They don't like the gunk that forms on the bottom. The battery lives were terrible. And people just consider them sort of ugly objects, or couldn't even name the brand that they were used to using. And so we thought, well, what if we could make a brush that's both more sustainable, more enjoyable to use and looks a bit nicer and has better features? I wonder if we could, do something meaningful here. And here we are 2 years later, or 3 years later.
Okay, the next bit. So you have the idea, you do the research. where do you go from that to your first customer?
Sure. So once we sort of, had the idea, looked at the data, research from a consumer perspective, we then were like, right, well, we need to design and then manufacture the product. So we're really lucky. We stumbled across this up and coming young designer, Dylan, who was based in California, and he created this unbelievably beautiful design. And then we took it to factories to be like, okay, we want to make this bespoke design using certain materials that we'd researched and discovered. So we use plant-based materials in the head, so like cornstarch and castor oil for the bristles. The body's made from aluminium. It's very slim, but very powerful, which is very difficult. And it's made in a modular way. So when it comes to the end of life, we can recycle and reuse the components. So you take that to a factory, and actually, like, I think we spoke to 25 of them. 24 of them more or less just laughed at us, being like, no, take our one. You can just add your logo on the front, and like, it's the best one. You don't need to create something new, because for factories, it's not very efficient to create something new. They want to have like scales of economy by, using their existing designs. And so eventually we found one factory that said, you know what, yeah, let's do this. And, as long as you pay us some money to test everything. So we did that. And once we had the product produced, then we set about, kind of creating like a pre-awareness campaign, not a Kickstarter. We just ran our own ads, but we did that. And yeah, then we launched in May 22.
Did you have a terrifying minimum order quantity?
Not terrifying. I had 5,000 was our minimum order quantity, which, is quite a chunk of money. And what was amazing is that we'd sold all of it before it even arrived. And so
from those first ads.
And so in the end, what happened was, like, our poor 3PL went from not having worked with us on a single order to receiving all of our stock, and then within 48 hours having to go from nothing to 5,000 units out the door, accurately. And actually we had our first sort of semi-disaster at that point. So at that point, some of our customers were in the US, about a third of the customers were in the US, and so we had to ensure that the shipments were sort of delivered there as well. And we sort of told all our customers, yep, everything's been shipped out. And a week later, the freight person told us, actually, I'm really sorry, like, the paperwork wasn't right, like, we didn't ship it, it's still in our warehouse. And we went from having sort of, no customer queries to overnight having to explain to 1,000 people who'd waited for the brush, hey, like, there's a bit of a delay. So that was like, that's a very steep learning curve in customer service. And honestly, I just remember like really panicking and thinking like, our business is doomed, like, we'll be dead in the water before we even began. But fortunately, we learned, by over communicating, everyone was very understanding. And actually it was actually not as big a problem. Like, looking back at the time, it felt like an existential problem. But yeah.
What has been the key to your scale?
Honestly, it's like business basics, which is loads of people brush their teeth. Everyone knows what a toothbrush is and how to use it. Yeah. And we've got a better product that addresses some problems that people have with their existing product. So, we'll say like, does your battery run out? Like, oh yeah, mine does. Like, do you get that gunk that forms on the bottom? Yeah. Like, do you take it when you go traveling? No, I don't. Why not? Because it's too bulky, because the battery dies. Okay. Well, you've got these problems. We've got this great solution, and you brush your teeth and you need a new one. Here we are. And so I think it's a classic case of product. Like there feels like there's some like product market fit. In my last company, it was like pushing a boulder up a hill, trying to win every single pound and, really scrapping for every bit of business. Whereas I think with this one, it feels a lot more like, people buy into the idea, but then what's great is when they try the product, they love it. And so we have over 6,500 5-star reviews on TrustPilot, making it, just by far the most highly rated electric toothbrush. But what's more is that, when people really like something, they tend to tell their friends about it. So we get a lot of organic traffic, which really helps us.
How much of the marketing success is that the product is so good and that the comms are so clear?
I would say actually it's mainly the product being so good, like, because I think lots of different people have said it much more succinctly than I have, but that the product is it does the job. And a lot of our reviews will be like, I wasn't sure if this was like just all hype, but actually like it's even better than I thought it was. And, actually gives them a much more thorough clean than I thought it would. And the performance is really good. I bought it for X or Y reason, but actually it's the quality of the clean. And so I think another part of it is that people have quite low expectations in this category. Like it's just something
because of what you say about the incumbents.
But it's also a chore. It's just something you've always had to do. You don't think of it as a moment of pleasure. It's just like, I have to do it, and I've always done it, and I'll continue to do it. So it's a bit of a mindless, thankless, maybe not particularly enjoyable moment. And I think, I don't know if you've ever been to like a restaurant that you always wanted to go to, and you're really excited about going there, and then when you get there, you're like, it's not maybe quite as good as I want.
Every time I go out for dinner in London at the moment.
Well, but there's other times where
burrata.
it's a last minute thing. You just duck into like the nearest restaurant and you're like, oh my God, that was amazing. And I really think it's just it's an element of like expectations, and if you go to the hyped restaurant that everyone's heard about in London, it's a big new opening, you kind of go in with a certain whereas when you have low expectations, and I think maybe, partly people don't have huge expectations when it comes to their electric toothbrush because, for various reasons. And so we're just trying to make it every little touch point a little bit better, whether it's packaging or customer service, and try and surprise and delight people.
Do you think that gets harder as you reset expectations?
Maybe it will, but here's the thing, right? We are tiny. We are
so big.
We are so tiny. Like, guess how many people brush their teeth in Canada, in Korea, in Russia, in every single country. Like people are brushing their teeth, and in a lot of markets, electric toothbrush sales are growing really quickly because it's much more effective. And so all dentists will recommend an electric brush because it just does perform.
And because some quite big businesses are spending a lot of money in getting dentists to educate people about the category.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've read Professor Damien Walmsley's research into the efficacy of electric brushes, but
I know it intimately.
Yeah, of course, right?
Yeah, great read. Love that.
Yeah, and so the Cochrane review, which in academic circles is where they take the research of all the sort of different studies that have been done on a particular topic, and then consolidates that research from lots of different places into like, okay, what does all the research say? And it's unequivocal. Electric brushes are more effective. That doesn't mean that you can't not use a manual brush as well. Mm-hmm. Like you definitely can, but it's up to 5 times more effective to use an electric brush, even after one day. So that's that's clinically researched. And actually, we do our clinical research at the same place as all the sort of major companies, and so it's really nice to know that our product really delivers on that promise. Mm. But I feel very basic saying this stuff like, there's a problem, we have a solution, there's lots of people who brush their teeth. But it kind of is just like very like business basics.
It's business basics. But if I had £1 for every founder of like another chia seed bar that I spoke to, I would be much richer than I am. And yet, yes, they're business basics, but there are so many businesses that don't solve these don't tick off these like fundamental things. Is your category big enough? Is there a genuine problem?
Yeah.
And it's kind of what we were saying before we went on air. Like you can run a business and you can be happy running a business if those things aren't true. It's not to say that there isn't a business to be built there.
Yeah.
But big business and fast scale is hugely fueled by a genuine customer problem.
Definitely.
Someone has to be annoyed enough about something that when you say to them,
and enough of them
nice
have that same problem,
and then enough of them.
Yeah,
exactly. A niche problem is one thing, but a real problem at scale feels, oddly feels. It kind of feels like there should be none left.
It's funny though. I think it's like one of these bizarre categories which is just a bit overlooked. I mean, like, do you brush your teeth? Like, is there anyone who doesn't brush their teeth? Like, and I was going to say, like, have you had a chia seed bar today? I actually have. I had it just before I came.
Irony.
So maybe chia seed is like, but like, but jokes aside, I don't know. I think keeping things simple is something that I've heard time and time again, and we're really trying to do that. We don't have a Bluetooth app, but guess what? 99.8% of people we've spoken to also don't use a Bluetooth app to brush their teeth.
Who does?
But actually, I've met a couple of people who do, and they've shown me years of data, and I'm like, okay, cool.
Fair play, you do.
No,
you.
and no, but that's it. That really works for you, and you should totally not buy our product. But if you're like the other 99.8% of people whose battery dies within a week, and it just looks a bit ugly, and you don't take it traveling and so on, then maybe our product would be a better solution.
Is that principle of simplicity true for the way you do business, not just the business itself?
So we try and focus on a few kind of core things, and actually something we've seen is it's so tempting to do this and to do that and to do this, but actually the fewer things we do, often because of constraint, because we don't have enough money to do them or enough capacity or something, but actually we've kind of gone faster just trying to do the basics well. And so we constantly try and do less things, but it's hard, because we want to do loads more stuff. It's so tempting, and actually I wouldn't say we're great at it, but we do proactively. We just made a decision just recently to postpone something so that we can double down on something that we're already doing. And I think that's the right decision for the team, for the business, for the consumer.
What do you do really, really well at the moment?
SURI the company or me personally?
Great counter question. SURI the company, but then I definitely want to know the answer to you personally.
What does SURI do really well? I think there's a few things that I think we do really well. I think one thing is we really invest in customer service.
Yeah.
So that's one area. I think we really invest in innovation, especially sustainable innovation, constantly researching new materials, new methods, new partnerships, new just really trying to push the boundaries of can we improve here, can we improve there? We're far from perfect, and we're constantly learning and rediscovering actually, God, the way we're doing that's not very good. Okay, we're going to have to change this and so on. But I think the whole team has that same approach of wanting to constantly innovate. Or I say innovate, not recreate something new, but evolve something. So yeah, I think that's going well. And then I think we have our design and the use of design in our ads, in our website, and how we position SURI, is very different from the rest of the category. And I think we've done some really great work on product design, on visual design, etc.
What do you do really well?
What do I do really well? I am really good at being a little bit I'm quite results driven and just really keen to make things move. And so I probably push things, but somehow we're sort of pushing them into creation. We kind of said, oh, we'd love to achieve this, we'd love to achieve that, and somehow we took a list of things that we wrote about the company, and they came true ahead of when we thought. So we became B Corp certified, which was a really, really proud moment, and we did it within I think 14 months of launching, which was really something I was really proud of. So yeah, I'm also not great at many other things, and actually this is also one of the things I'm not good at, is pushing too hard for results. But yeah, it's a skill and a weakness,
because you can push too hard.
Yeah,
Of course.
What about you?
What am I really good at?
Yeah.
So I ask, I really believe in super strengths, that everyone has one thing that they're the best in the world at. And that if we all just do what we're really good at, then we're happy and we're fulfilled. I'm really good at looking at lots of different kinds of data at once. So emotional signals, numbers, things people have said to me in conversations, and working out what the way through is. And I can kind of rinse and repeat that task. And I can kind of bring people on that. I'm quite a good vision setter.
Yeah.
I'm shit at attention to detail.
Okay,
So I'll show you where you're going, and then that's it, I'm out.
Yeah.
But I've spent quite a lot of time trying to refine my sense of what my skills are, and my job is therefore to look at everything on my to-do list and be like, is this going to need my super strength? And if not, someone else should do it.
Yeah, that's great. And I think actually that's where, for me, having a co-founder is really good, because Guy is very much like a details like person. In fact, I don't know if you did like those Meyer-Briggs thing, but like I'm definitely like big picture, and I need to see like the patterns and see bits, and like I can visualize, okay, all of this means this, and like we should do that. Whereas Guy will, like, the first thing he'll say is like, okay, but like what are we like what are we actually talking about? Like, do we change this? Yeah. I'm like, oh no.
I'm like, oh no.
Yeah. And it's funny because, you know, we're so different in that respect, but it's very complementary in other ways.
How have the last 2 years been for you personally?
Pretty good. Like, actually amazing. In as much as I had a daughter, and so I already had a son, and we had a daughter, Elsie, and so it's just so glorious having children, and like seeing the two of them grow up and interact and just develop has just been amazing. And then the business is also, it's really rewarding to see the business grow and to see the team perform really well, and to just do lots of first things. Like, it sounds really silly, but like I always thought one day, like, wouldn't it be so cool to have a fridge in your office and to have like cold drinks and like genuine, you know what I mean? Like, or maybe like a beer, and like we got this like fake Smeg fridge, and I just remember thinking like, wow, we have so made it. Like, we got a fridge in the office. And then like another really cool thing is like we do product swaps sometimes, and so we did one with Tony's Chocolonely toothbrushes for chocolate, and so we got like all this chocolate, and I just remember thinking, I don't know, maybe that an insight into me, but I don't know, it's just you got to take the joy in the like in the journey, and
the
and
fridge,
like,
the chocolate, the B Corp, like these
kids.
milestones. You have to celebrate these moments,
and celebrating it with people who you really care about. You know, like we have a great team and a great team of high performing people, and so it just creates this really nice sort of atmosphere.
What about the pressure? Do you feel it?
What pressure?
That's a no. No stress?
Oh, like tons of stress.
Okay. What's the distinction?
I don't feel pressure from. For me, the stress is when, you know, things are going wrong, or you have to make a hard decision and stuff like that. But I don't feel that comes as a result of pressure. It's more as a result of things not being the way I want it to be. Whereas we're really lucky, like I guess we have great investors, so we don't really have pressure from them per se. Like, it's more support. If anything, I feel if there were pressure, they would alleviate it somewhat. And then I'm trying my best, and so I don't feel. Do you know what I mean? Like, I couldn't do any more, really. Like, do you know what I mean? So I don't feel pressure of like, oh, could I have done more? So yeah, and we're just giving it our best shot, and, you know, hopefully it works, and, you know.
Well, it's working.
It's working now, but, you know, any business, you know, 90% of businesses fail within the first 10 years. So I'm under no illusion. Like, it's not like there's good times, there's bad. Actually, you know what? I think maybe having kids has really changed my perspective on things. Someone told me it's like, you know, when things are going well, like, enjoy it, but don't always expect it to last. And when things are going badly, don't worry, because they'll get better.
It'll end.
And it's so true. And it's sort of certain parts are out with your control. And so I think actually I was listening to a book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which talks about, like, you know, focus on your areas of control. Yeah. You know, not the areas outside of your control. And so a bit like with the kids, like, you know, sometimes I feel like father of the year, sometimes I feel like worst dad ever. But I try and, you know, I'm trying my best, and hopefully over the course, long run, it goes in the right direction, or maybe it won't. But either way, I'll have done what I thought was the right thing. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense in the context of children. in the context of the business, have there been times that have felt really tough?
Oh yeah, of
Yeah?
course. Oh yeah. Sorry.
But just externally, you're on such a tear that I don't, it's been this crazy growth in a really relatively short period of time.
Yeah.
That I think, I mean, tell me how it feels to you. For me, it's like, well, this is all plain sailing.
It's exciting, like I'm under no illusion. Like I think we've had a particularly, we've had really strong growth and really great support and really great customers and reviews and media coverage. And so, I mean, like it's really, really enjoyable, but that doesn't mean that it's also not really, really difficult. And, we work long hours and we do a lot, and, you face some really sort of big challenges. And so it's this funny thing. It's like people often say, it's like, is the glass half full or half empty? And like, I think for the first time, and it's a bit like this with children as well, I think, but like, it's not one or the other. Yes. It's actually both simultaneously.
Like it can be true at once.
Yeah. And so like the business, so much stuff's going really well and so much stuff's really hard. So people are like, oh, like, how's it going? And it's like, well, like, it depends which part you ask me about. Do you know what I mean? If you ask me about the good stuff, like it's amazing. If you ask me about the bad stuff, it's awful. But either way, like, I'm going to go put the kids to bed in half an hour, then, open my laptop back out. So really, I don't know, it sounds odd, but I think after my last company, like, I probably made a ton of mistakes, felt tons of pressure, really kind of got to me, and I kind of reset a little bit and thought, I'm going to try and really enjoy like the days, the weeks, the months, as much as I can, work on the things that I can control, or my input, not try and worry too much about stuff I can't control, because that actually, like that I think is really stressful. Because if you worry about something that you can't do anything about, then that inherently is extremely stressful.
It's an exhausting.
It's impossible, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you're like worried about if it's going to rain, like it's not. You don't want to be living in the UK 2024 summertime, and like, do you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Is there a particular kind of challenge that gets to you disproportionately? So I know that people stuff sends me mad. I know that commercial stuff I'm really chill with.
Yeah. What gets me really mad? I think I had someone on LinkedIn drop into my DMs when we were raising money saying, oh, can I see your investor deck? And I was like, oh, actually, we've closed a round. And this person was very insistent, and they're a big advocate for founder mental health. And but they worked for a unnamed private single family office. And I was like, well, no. And they kept pushing. So I was like, okay, I'll share the deck with you. And then we have that thing, DocSend, where you can see who's viewing it. And it turned out that this private family office was actually the private family office of another electric oral care brand. And that company, that was passed straight to the company. So, and they were just looking at our plans sort of like every single day. That was really, I find that like really tough, because I was like, oh my goodness, like, but if I'm honest, like, I was actually, what was tough was like, I felt so stupid. Do you know what I mean? Like, I felt like, oh my goodness, I'm such a fool. Like, why didn't I check this, etc. I mean, what they did was was pretty weird, given that they're such a big advocate for like, but it was a good business lesson, actually, and actually you just learn more from your mistakes, I think. And so I was like, so from then on and from now on, like, if someone asks us for information or is asking certain questions, like, we do like a more thorough sort of check as to who this person is.
Is there a world in which whoever has that information, the execution and the fact that you make it happen is so much of the art that actually, like, what are they going to do with that in the first place? You
know what? And like, actually, like it's kind of funny, because like it's more like the way it was done. But
no one likes being tricked, but like, really,
exactly.
it's
and it was so deceitful. But actually, like, I think any deck that goes out anywhere pretty much does the rounds anyway.
Exactly.
So it wasn't like, you know what I mean? They could have got
It's
it
just
in
you don't need to
any
know
number of
about it.
other ways. It just exactly. Normally you just don't know, and exactly. So, but you know, when you said about like things that kind of get me,
They really get you.
yeah, really get me. That like someone crossing me, I think is yeah. And we had one retailer do it as well in quite like a bad way. But you know, it's just something, you know, you can't get too caught up in.
But these also
in how other
aren't,
people do things.
These aren't like your quirks. This is like people don't like being fucked over. Like, I think fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, fair enough. But you know, there's a level of like how much you should like not like it, but then you know, it's funny. Like at the time, I was furious, but now, you know, I can laugh about it and be like, oh, I'm glad that I don't do that, or hey, here are steps I would do to avoid that sort of happening again.
Yeah. How big is your team and how's it changed? These people that you talk so warmly of.
Yeah, no. So we're 20 people now, and we're actually hiring 8 more, maybe 10 more at the moment.
Nice.
So it's a really interesting change to go from, you know, 20 to 30, because that, you know, that's quite a change.
Yeah.
And I was just talking to some guy this morning. Apparently, like, you need to change systems on 3s and 10s. So like when you're a company of 3, it's one thing, but when you get to 10, you need to change. And then when you get to 30, it needs to change, and then 100 and 300. And so if that's true, then, you know, it feels like, yeah, probably there's like, we're kind of moving into a slightly different sort of level of systems and communication.
And how do you feel about that?
Yeah.
Bureaucracy's coming.
Yeah, you know, excited. I think it's really, actually just this morning I went to see an office which was a bit bigger than our current one, but the same really so it's like half the price per square foot, and I love value. Like, I really love value. Like, after my family and friends, value is like the thing I love most in the world. And that's why I love my job. Like, I love negotiating. Yeah. I love, you know, selling. I love creating value. You know, our brush is, you know, is more sustainable than any other electric brush. It's really high performing, but it's at a really great price point versus the ones comparable are like 2 or 3 times the cost. And so it's just really great value. And so, yeah, I think I'm looking forward to having a larger team, because it means that we can pursue more of the things that we want to do more quickly. And also, you know, the quicker we are at, you know, doing more, like we've got some really great, more sustainable innovation coming through. And, you know, if we can get that to more people, then it really does mean that we can have a bit more of an impact.
If we focus on your marketing team, I'd love to hear this, like, a bit
They're
about...
big fans of yours.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Flatter me. I'd love to hear a bit about who they are and what they do, and then what's on the list for them next.
So we have our growth team, and sort of then like brand marketing. And so we have a couple of people on growth, you know, making ads, reviewing ads, etc. And then looking at different platforms and you know, ways to optimize our web page. There's just so much you can do on conversion. I absolutely love it. And it's just really satisfying when, like, we just did a redesign of the PDP, and, you know, we saw a 20% increase in conversion.
It's so fun, isn't it?
Like we
It's
launched
like the
landing
best game
pages.
ever.
It is, but then it's also like, shit, why didn't we do that like 6 months ago? You know, pre Q4, because then we could have had like a 30% increase in conversion here and so on. And so then that's like one of the areas that we're looking at is like, okay, like, you know, do you focus on conversion, or do you convert, you know, like driving traffic? And the answer is probably a little bit of both. So we have growth people, and then we have brand marketing, and someone who does our social media. Yeah, so 4 people. Actually, and then someone who does email. Sorry, I should have said that as well.
Very, very lean team for the size of the business.
Is it? I don't know. Yeah. Okay.
That's one thing I can tell you about. Yes.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can go back and tell them.
Yeah. They're always asking me to hire more people, so I guess maybe
they're
that's
not.
true.
Yeah.
And
I can tell you that they're not. They're not alone in like for their output. I think that's incredible.
Yeah.
What do you think makes a great startup marketer?
Great startup marketer. So I've got a really good example. So we run ads, and we had the first sort of 9 months, I think we ran 3 ads that we'd shot 9 months prior, and we ran the same ads for about 9 months with very little variation. And then it was coming up to Q4, and we're like, oh my goodness, we need to like up level, and we don't have capacity. And we were sort of on track to hire our first growth hire. And we're like, you know what, we need to go with a big agency, you know, like that was like our solution. So we went with a big agency, and, you know, I'm sure that agency is like, you know, really great and so on. But we didn't see a massive increase in our performance, but we were spending like, I don't know, a lot more than we'd ever spent ever on anything. Or actually ever since probably. And then a month and a half in, the new guy joined, and first thing he said was like, okay, well, we'll cut the agency. And in his first week, he was like, hey, look, actually I can take these assets here and this here and that there, and like, actually I can just create new ads. And he sat down, and we're like, oh no, don't worry, like we'll need to get like, you know, a new production, we'll need to get like some editing time, we'll need to do this. And he was like, what are you talking about? Like, watch this. And then sure enough, like made like 10 ads in the first week. All like, I think 9 of them outperformed all of our prior ads. And to answer your question, it's someone who's got this like really good combination of, you know, strategic thinking or creative ideas and execution.
Yeah.
And to be able to really like the execution side, I think for marketing, it's execution and performance. So, you know, coming from P&G, you know, it's so different what you need to do versus in a startup. You know, I don't know if you found this, but our marketing teams, you know, had agencies, and you know, we would have the budgets and you'd have the vision, but the actual execution was done by
my entire
agencies.
business
Yeah.
is built on my crash landing from P&G into startups.
Okay, yeah.
And going, oh my God, this is so hard. And I thought I knew how to do marketing.
Yeah.
I knew how to write weird documents that I sent to
Yeah.
really overstaffed agency teams.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, like P&G, most successful marketing company in the world,
So
and been going for 100
for
years.
sure.
So like, they know
and
how
I
to do
know
it.
how to
Yeah.
think and structure an argument
Yeah.
that business has taught me.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how to lift a finger.
Yeah, and that's it. And it's like it's a rare commodity, but when you find someone who's got like the strategic thinking plus the ability to just like execute quickly and cheaply, it's just amazing. I think like technology, you know, we couldn't have run SURI, I don't know, a decade ago, but now, you know, we have Shopify, which enables stuff. Like we have 3PLs, like we have all this software which does so much stuff, and you know, even the video editing software like makes it so much easier. Shooting on your iPhone, like the stuff that, you know, a while ago just cost so much money. I think now it's way more achievable with less people. And actually, I was reading this guy on LinkedIn reckons the future of e-commerce companies is like super lean teams, like 3 people, 4 people, and that you can scale some pretty sizable ones. I think there's a really good example in Jolie, who make the shower heads. I think they're doing 30 million revenue, and they got 3 full-time employees. I mean, clearly they're using a lot of like external providers, but you know, it just goes to show that like, you know, it is possible to have few people executing really well.
Yes, I think I completely agree with you. I think the missing piece is like the hustle. I think it's like a hustle mindset, which is like, I don't know how to execute this, but I'm going to work it out.
Totally.
And that problem solving.
100%.
Which again is like why I built a community, because I was like, well, the only way I'm going to work out how to do this is if I know who to ask.
Yeah.
So I need the people around me to be able to pack that hustle.
Thing is though, is that teachable or is that just individuals? Because like we hired someone who was one of the first employees at Lick, and he just works, if there's a problem, he just like works out the solution. And so he's in a different function with SURI than he was at Lick, and yet you could just see like, here's a guy who's like, I don't know what to do here, so I'm going to phone up like 10 people who are doing it already. I'm going to read a book on it. I'm going to Google some solutions. I'm going to try some prototypes. And just doesn't stop.
I think it's a bit teachable.
Yeah.
I think there are cultures where you're habitually coded to do that, and and the questions are, well, who have you spoken to? And I've given you these resources, so why haven't you gone and done that? And I've set you up a bit to be able to do that. And there's an expectation, and then there are cultures that just don't celebrate I think it should be really celebrated to say, I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to work it out.
Yeah.
To me, that's like the most incredible example of like the entrepreneurial kind of character I want around me. I do not want someone who doesn't tell me that they don't know how to do it.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember in my last company, I had a grad who, like, she was phenomenal, like really good at stuff, but initially maybe lacked a bit of confidence.
Yeah.
And she would come to me and, you know, ask me a question. And I don't know if she really thought that I knew everything, but I don't know anything. And so I would just Google it and then send her like the answers. But then I think someone showed me this thing, actually. It's like pretty passive aggressive actually looking back on it, but it's like it records someone like typing into Google like the question you just asked me, and like it just records like, you know,
like maybe a screen sharing.
Like it's almost like a screen sharing thing. And then after 2 or 3 times, like she was like, okay, Mark, I've Googled this. Here are like 3 things. Which one do you think is the best one? And even then I was like, well, okay, what do you think is the best one? And she was like, oh, hold on a second, I'll go away. Come back Google. And we were like, okay, cool. Like I've researched it. There are 3 options. This is my recommendation. This is why. I'd be like, well, that seems like pretty good logic. Go with it, you know? And so I think it is a little bit trainable, but I think like someone like her, she really had that, like she wanted to always learn and grow and do more. Whereas I think, you know, some people are comfortable not doing that.
Well, it's like, and I always think back to my P&G interview process where it was like, tell me a time you've been a leader, tell me a time you led a team, tell me a time where you've led a group of people. It's like, I get what you're going for. I understand what you're looking for in me. I was hockey captain, get it?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I actually wasn't, but like, you know, it was like, there is one thing here. And actually that's been, I still think leadership is like a very key benefit in any role, but that's almost replaced with like, for me, it's like, what's your hustle? So I'm like, what have you built? Totally. What are you doing on the side? Like, show me that you're the kind of person that just makes things material.
Actually, I've really noticed as well, and all of my team are great. I'm using a few different examples, but like I've got a few people on my team who are like athletes or former athletes, like or sports people or very in competitive sports to like a good level, and there is some element of like self-leadership and competitiveness and, you know, willing to do whatever it takes and like find the solutions that I think is really, you know,
commitment and resilience.
And commitment, resilience, that really drives them. In fact, we have this one person at our PR agency, Ashley, and she is just, one of the hardest hustling, results-driven, competitive people I know.
That's a real attribute. What is the biggest challenge with SURI marketing?
The biggest challenge, I think we sort of moving towards mass awareness and sort of simplifying what we're doing. And so, you know, like, you know, bigger brands, you know, they really get their sort of messaging like super simple and really clear so that people can understand it. And I think that's, you know, a challenge for us as we want to, you know, grow. You know, we're a small company in the scheme of, you know, our competitors or, you know, larger businesses that we aspire to become. And so I think that's a challenge.
How are you approaching it?
Great question. Like, we're trying to work out, you know, how to kind of get there. I think, you know, it's going to be a combination of, you know, the right ideas, the right people. Yeah.
Interesting. What I wondered if the answer to your question was going to be about building trust in sustainability comms, which is clearly not. But like, I feel like we're in a world of such greenwashing, where I'm sort of a bit knackered of being told that everything is a more sustainable version of the thing it was, and a bit burnt out by being told that everything I do is sinful. Is that like, how do you, is that a reality for you? Is that something represented by your customers, and how do you approach it?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, when it comes to brushing your teeth, you want a high performing brush, right?
Yes, you're not going to use a twig.
Well, actually, a lot of people do use twigs, and they are more sustainable. In fact, like across South Asia, you know, they use this wood material, and that is more sustainable than using an electric brush, right? Like, so being totally clear.
The efficacy impact is far.
Absolutely.
Right.
Exactly. And then there's lots of other reasons. But I think just taking a step back, whether do you like Oatly or not? I don't know. A lot of people hate Oatly now, but I
kind of feel neutral towards it, actually.
Cool.
I've probably come on my roller coaster out of the wash, and I'm now just like, fine.
Yeah. So, I love Oatly, and, I love their marketing, and, I love their sort of sustainability angle, and, the impact they're trying to make. But really, I just love the taste. That is why, I buy,
So I was served an Instagram video, I don't even know if it was an ad, of someone recreating Oatly, and I can't unsee what went in that Nutri-Bullet.
Okay. That's probably why I like it so much, because it's like...
Because it's so good.
Yeah, because it's like a bit sugary. But I think, coming back to your question about, sustainability and so on, like, for us, sustainability is like a core part of SURI. It's in our name, Sustainable Rituals. But we also have these two other pillars which are really important, and those are performance. So does the product give a great performance? And design, like, is it designed to deliver what people want? So like a 40-day battery, people want a long battery life. So that's a consideration to design. Is it light? Does it have a travel case, etc.? And so we don't, I think if you look at our ads, they're not just sustainable and really just like, trying to push the sustainability solely. I think it's a combination of performance, design, and sustainability. And then, definitely like greenwashing is something that you definitely want to avoid. And I think it's difficult. You want to make sure that, exactly what you say is exactly right and not, overclaim. And we're constantly learning and trying to improve.
But I suppose the design and performance pillars support your sustainability claims by just insinuating so much quality. Because, you look so credible that I think that proves to a consumer's brain that the sustainability is solid.
I hadn't even thought about it like that.
Yeah.
So what do you mean?
So, I mean, you say you're sustainable, you say you're high performance, and you say that you're beautifully designed. All three of those in different ways are laddering up to a perception of this being a very high quality, to your point, great value proposition. And I think that because of the care in the design, I assume a care in everything you do. Yeah. It's building a brand perception of a very considered proposition.
Yeah, and it is a very considered proposition. So I think that's probably a fair comment. I think we're also B Corp certified. We work with Climate Partner to measure all of our emissions, and so we sort of really do what's important in order to try and make sure that we're like on the right path, that we're doing the right things. Like I said, we're far from it's by no means perfect, but we try and get better every day.
One final question.
Yeah.
What is one thing that someone listening to this can help you with?
Can help me with? Oh my goodness, I know 100% what it is, which is basically last year we went on holiday to my sister's house with my kids, and one of my kids was sick. And so we said, look, you can sleep in our bed tonight. And we let him do it for 5 nights. That was bad. And now for the last, year and a half, he comes into our room, 80% of the evenings. So if anyone knows some really good sleep training people, then that would be great, because it's we probably suffer on sleep a little bit. But
are you knackered?
I would say there's just had a baby knackered, which is truly knackered.
Because you've just rebased.
We're nowhere near that. And so I'm not too bad, but I could I think I could have an even better sleep without someone's knee in my mouth or foot in my back or something.
All right, audience, let's make this happen.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Thank you for coming.
No, thanks for having me. Yeah, thank you.
It was so good. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back in a fortnight with another episode. And remember, if there's someone you'd really like to hear from, let me know.